All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our regular meeting of the Peirce Elementary Local School Council. Before we get started, I'd like to go ahead and go over our norms. Be an active, engaged, contributing participant by sharing your perspective and actively listening to others. Be flexible and respectful of others' time and decisions. Open to other people's truth and perspectives. Be reminded of differences in cultural and social background. Be transparent about concerns, challenges, and misunderstandings. Be reflective, collaborative, and supportive. Always take the work back to student achievement. What can we do to make things better for our students, both academically and social-emotionally? Respect student, staff, and LSC members' confidentiality unless there's a threat to safety. Meetings should be paused if LSC members or meeting participants experience harm due to their identity, including but not limited to gender, sexual orientation, race, etc. The harm should be named. Understand that not everything has a right now solution and trust that the process is ongoing. With that, I'll go ahead and do a roll call. Matthew Kwame, parent rep.
Lisa Avila, principal.
Rocky Doria, parent
Sonia Brown, parent rep.
Lamont Lynn, community rep.
Susie Crosby, student rep.
Megan Topa, teacher rep.
Bridget Vivian, teacher rep.
Stephanie Esposito, community rep.
Eric Oakson, parent rep.
Thank you. Amy and Nicole send their regards. I'm not gonna be able to make it. Oliver, I haven't heard, so he might be a little bit late. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the order of the agenda. I'd like to make a motion to approve the order of the agenda.
I will second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Motion passes. Next item, items needing council approval. So we have an ongoing measure here to allow LSC members to join them remotely. Nobody has asked for that, so no need to go through that. The next items are minutes from the March 11th, 2026 regular meeting. Those we shared last time, we didn't vote on them, but I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the March 11th, 2026 regular meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Thank you, motion passes. Next item, minutes from the April 8th, 2026 regular meeting. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 8th regular meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Next item, so a couple of fundraisers. So the first one is fundraiser for Peirce year-end gifts for Peirce staff and teachers, sponsored by FOP and organized by PSO. I'd like to make a motion to approve the fundraiser for Peirce year-end gifts for Peirce teachers and staff. Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Thank you. Motion passes. Next one, fundraiser for Peirce Move-a-thon already. Scheduled for October 9th, 2026, sponsored by FOP. I'd like to make a motion to approve the fundraiser for Peirce Move-a-thon scheduled for October 9th, sponsored by FOP. Sonia, thank you. All in favor? Awesome, thank you. Motion passes. Yeah, I know. I want my banana. The next two items have to do with leasing agreements for the two organizations that provide before and after school support or care for our kids. So we're still in the process. I just talked to Luis. We're still in the process of gathering some additional documentation. So they shared their certificate of liability, insurance liability, but we need to go through and get some actual paperwork for like the actual lease agreement. So we will postpone this for our next meeting. So we have to do that before the school starts. So it's, we're not gonna have a special meeting specifically for that, but because we're gonna have a special meeting anyways, that's gonna be, these two are going to be part of that meeting. if that makes sense. All right. Next item is public participation. We do have a sign-up sheet over there for public participation. I did check a couple of minutes ago, the inbox. I know.
No sign-up sheet.
Oh, my apologies. I operated on autopilot here. 1 second. I think I have a sign-up sheet. When you folks are not recording. Elizabeth, I know you reached out for earlier. We didn't have time to put that on the agenda, but I figured we could make that part of public participation. I don't know if you want to.
Save it for the second one, that's fine.
Very good, thank you. And I did, like I said, I checked that there are no, this was the one that we had. All right, next item, so yes, if folks want to put their names down, please go ahead and do so.
Melody.
Hi. Go ahead.
I'm Melody Littlefair. I am one of the assistant principals over at SEN. I'm also a proud 8th grade Peirce student who is graduating in a couple of weeks. I'm here to speak on behalf of our principal, Holly Bakers. We are currently also conducting our own LSC meeting right now, so I'm not rude, but I have to go back after this. I'll just read her statement. Principal Bakers wanted to share how excited we are to revitalize our partnership with Peirce. We're eager to work with Principal Avila, AP Collis, and AP Peirce, who we actually know from Network 14 as an AP, so we have that relationship already. We're hoping to have experiences for students and families that help everyone see the strength and rigor and joy in our programming at SEN, so every student knows that they have a strong neighborhood opportunity at SEN Preschool. Our goal really is to build upon student and school collaboration from events such as the one that took place here, the dance program, Life is Water, or Water is Life, our international night performances, the personal project performances, and presentations in the Model UN. We are looking forward to our next steps in working with the Peirce administration, staff, families in the community, most importantly, your kids. Our doors are always open at SEN, and we're just on the street. You can stop by 5900 North Glenwood. Even starting tomorrow night, we have our final arts program that captures dance and visual arts and music and theater. Word on the street starting at 5 o'clock. But from the administration and community at SEN, we wish Peirce a really strong school year.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so I'll move on to the next item, Cece.
Hi, okay, so I'm gonna start with my reports from the student groups. 5th, 6th, and 7th day GSA. The GSAs are both working on projects for students to lead up to the Peirce Pride Parade. Some of these projects include an activity for younger grades where they can make pride flags that already exist or a new one that they feel fits their identity out of colored paper strips. They are also planning some books to read to younger grades that explain Pride Month, different types of families like families with 2 moms or 2 dads, gender, and gender expression. 5th, 6th Student Council. I recently joined a 5th, 6th Student Council meeting to introduce myself and gather their concerns and ideas. First off, they share how they feel like recess is an uncomfortable environment and how there is lots of swearing. They also talked about how kids were leaving girls out of sports they were playing for no apparent reason. They also shared how they feel like the lunch coaches aren't doing their job. They're watching but not intervening. At lunch, they feel like coaches are going overboard on the rules, and now they can't even throw something away without getting reprimanded. They also shared how at the start of the school year, students did a lunch survey at school where they taste tested different foods and rated them. Those foods have never appeared on the lunch menu, so students are feeling inconsistency with their student voice in the lunch situation at Peirce. They also shared how during the day they hear lots of inappropriate and sexual jokes and slurs. These words make them feel really uncomfortable, and they feel like the teachers never hear the jokes, so the kids never get in trouble for saying that. 7th, 8th BSU. The BSU learned a lot about Alma Thomas in the past month. Alma Thomas was a Black artist who created bright colored abstract paintings. She was the first African-American woman to be included in the White House's permanent art collection. Her work is now in the Smithsonian Art Museum, the Whitney Museum of American Art, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, MoMA, and the Art Institute of Chicago. The BSU created projects inspired her that were hung up at Fiesta de Arte. 7th, 8th Raza Unida. The Raza Unida is currently planning for the 7th, 8th baile they are organizing. It is on May 15th from 4 to 6 p.m. in the cafeteria. 5th through 8th Student Voice Committee. At the Student Voice Committee's last meeting, we started with the CIWP update. Then we talked about the allergy tables in the lunchroom. Next year, we're going to create a buddy system so that students with allergies don't feel excluded or have to sit alone. We also talked about LGBTQ+ representation and literacy at school, and maybe doing a revamp of the books we've been reading in school next year. We also talked about the newly added security guard in the 7th, 8th hallway that students were not told about. Lots of students shared feeling like they did something wrong and that they were being watched. We were told by the admin at the meeting that they are trying to spread the security around the school, but it didn't make sense because there's no security guard on the 2nd floor. Finally, we talked about the inappropriate jokes saying that students have been noticing other students saying recently. We talked about the importance of educating others about what those words mean and why we shouldn't say them, and being upstanders so that the systems can be put in place to stop students from saying inappropriate things. We organized a meeting next week to talk about these topics a bit more and start recruiting students for next year. Student Wellness Committee. The Student Wellness Committee is working on some end-of-year projects. We recorded a recruitment video to spread the word about our committee so that more people join next year. We are also hoping to record a video about how to make a DIY compost at your home to help reuse food scraps. We also designed Student Wellness Committee t-shirts. A few student updates. Peirce's 2nd annual Pad and Tampon Drive is now over. A huge shout out to everyone who donated, Mr. Villa and Ms. Bakulis. I also want to thank my co-organizer, Ivy Seva, for being such an awesome teammate. Our goal is to make sure that every Peirce student has access to period products during the school day, in line with Right 3.2 in the CPS Rights and Responsibilities Handbook. We also wanted to destigmatize menstruating in the classroom so that every student feels safe and supported at school. Every kid deserves an education, and periods should never hinder that. We will be packaging up the products next week, and then they will be delivered to 4th grade classrooms. Peirce sports update. The 7th, 8th girls soccer team is currently 4-2. The 7th, 8th co-ed flag football team is currently 5-1. The Peirce 5th through 8th track and field team has advanced to the super regionals. I included the names of everyone in all the different events in the student report. I'm not going to read those. Let's go Panthers. And lastly, I want to thank the departing LSC members. It has been an honor not only to be on this council with you, but also to learn from you. Et Mathieu, merci beaucoup à toi. Tu as été un chef magnifique pour notre LSC cette année. Thank you guys.
Thank you. In case you guys don't know what she said. Thank you. She was thanking me and the council. Right. Any questions for Cece?
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, principal report.
All right, good evening, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm going to make the principal report brief because I want to turn more attention to the CIWP as part of my principal report. So just going through the report, just some Peirce happenings. As you know, our Mr. Leah, wonderful from AP, has gone off to Sullivan now to be Principal at Sullivan. But I would like to introduce our new MYP AP, Ms. Danielle Peirce.
Thank you Thanks for being here tonight. It shows a lot that there's a lot of community here. I've been really welcomed into the Peirce community so far in my short 8 days of being here. Honestly, it feels like I've been here a lot longer than 8 days, and that's because I've been welcomed so warmly. So thank you. I'm really excited to see where we bring this the school together as a team and working closely with you. So thank you.
We're glad to have Danielle, and she off and running since day one. Glad to have her and her experience here as part of the Peirce family. So just a couple of the other things that have been happening from Administrative Professional Day to our School Spirit Week to Teacher Appreciation. A shout out to our PSO for all the wonderful activities they organize for our teachers. Such a wonderful way to celebrate our teachers and staff and all that they do for our school community. From the parent community, the other meeting was a huge success. Shout out to all the volunteers, to back as well to Mr. Lerner for helping organizing all of that. We also had a couple other events, our Family Culture Night, Palestinian in Chicago, our Fiesta de Arte, again, all huge successes. Just all the wonderful work. Lauren, thank you for also galvanizing all of the members and the parents, to create such a wonderful gallery for our parents and our staff to see the wonderful work that our students are doing. Couple updates. We do have a coffee with the principal upcoming this Friday to give introduction again to Ms. Peirce to the parent community, but also to give parents an opportunity to listen to CIWP updates and gather some additional feedback from them as well. Student updates. Model UN has concluded, very successful. Model UN, again, collaboration with SEN, so we appreciate SEN's collaboration. And then from the athletic shout outs to the Oliver Junior School performances, a lot of wonderful things happening at Peirce, and especially our PYP exhibition, which was another huge success on April 17th. A lot of work was put into it. I was one of the mentors for three of the students, so I was really proud of the work that they did, and they even sent me a thank you card. I was so grateful for that. Just having that FaceTime with me, at heart, I'm still a teacher. So having that FaceTime with him just meant the world to me. So jumping into our domains organization, we will be giving CIWP updates momentarily, but going on to the instructional teams. So our ILT is going to be wrapping up soon. Right now, we're wrapping up our current CIWP cycle. We're really at that reflective piece. We're finishing the cycle, gathering feedback from our staff too about how they felt, especially from that, it was curriculum and instruction in the old CIWP. So we're gathering feedback from them on how they felt about that CIWP cycle. We are finishing EOI testing, so we don't have the final results of the final metric to see if we hit our goals for the previous CIWP yet. Couple of PYP, MYP updates. As I mentioned, PYP just had their exhibition on April 17th. Shout out to Ms. Leibovitz again for organizing and galvanizing our staff, and the mentors all across the school. Some quick MYP updates. Some of the things that we are updating is regarding our mathematics program in terms of acceleration. In meeting with our middle school math team, as well as our partners in SEN as well, we are going to be making some shifts in regards to following more of a district model approach, ensuring that we're in alignment with CPS protocols, because some of the things that we noticed were students were lacking some skill sets when they went to double acceleration. So we want to make sure that they're not missing out on those 7th, 8th grade standards. So we are shifting to that single subject acceleration shift as other schools do in CPS. And more updates on that will be given to parents too in the fall as well. We did currently have a meeting for anyone who signed up for single subject acceleration. They signed up their child, to give them those updates. But to give you a snapshot, we're transitioning out. So anyone who's in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are still gonna follow that model. It would just be the incoming 5th graders that would not follow that model right now. It's anyone that's already in 6th, 7th, and 8th will still follow the double acceleration model. SPED updates. We had a SICA and SPED team recently. Our wonderful case managers, they attend and give updates, best practices to our SPED and SICA teams. BHT and MTSS are wrapping up too for the year, gathering feedback from stakeholders, or especially our teacher stakeholders. I'm happy to report from an MTSS lens that with the trends, it shows overall positive tier movement across the school. So that is a plus. We also did receive our 5 essential results for SY 26. And I'm happy to report that we made gains in our 5 essentials. We went from being moderately organized, and I want to remind, this is back from SY 24 because there was not sufficient data last year to measure 5 essentials. And now Peirce is being organized for improvement. So some of the areas where we saw improvement included effective leaders, collaborative teachers, and involved families. So my hat's off to the school community for us working collectively, ensuring that we move our school forward in a positive manner. Upcoming weeks in Domain 2, we've really been focusing on grade level standards, again, wrapping up our ILT cycle with the priority standards. Also focusing on next year, our proposed assessment plan was ratified and passed by the teachers. It basically is a projection of what has already been done. So STAR 360 will be the assessment that we are going to follow. As a reminder, as I mentioned in the last LSC meeting, the school will have to pay for K-2 assessments because the district does not cover that cost, because their district covered assessment is iReady. So if we wanted to adopt STAR 360, it would have to come from us. We're just wrapping up other things for end of school year, end of your school year checklist. Right now, we're working on student classroom rosters for next year and really getting that teacher input to make sure that, we create robust classroom rosters for next year and ensuring that, the students are divvied up in an appropriate manner. Domain 3, Student of the Month. We just had these on April 15th. We actually had our Student of the Month for April yesterday as well. The climate and culture updates, apologies I didn't print that, but you are free to see the updates from this past month from the last LSC meeting to the current day. CC mentioned, we met with Student Voice. We went over CIWP updates as well, and we're going to continue following up with them as well. Trying to gather feedback from students as well on our CIWP. As well as other issues, that students have brought to our attention. We want to make sure that we're honoring student voice and collaboratively working with them on how we can improve, that partnership moving forward. Physical infrastructure updates. Happy to report that the day after the last LSC meeting, they installed the physical gates after harassing them.
You could tell right away.
Literally, Brian pulled me out of the meeting. I was so happy. Okay, I gotta see it. So that's done. We're still waiting for quotes for around the dumpster and also for that pathway by the garden. The reason nothing has been done is there was a freeze in all CPS because of the budget release. So they ran out of funds this year, and they were already projecting for the next year's budget. So that scope of work is still planned. I'm just waiting for the timeline. My estimation was, based on what they told me, it will be sometime during the summer that they're going to complete that project. But I am consistently asking them to work on it because our kiddos love touching the bricks. Right here. We're also waiting the quote for the gym floors as well. Just waiting for those quotes as well. Attendance updates, we did go up in attendance. There was a 0.12% increase in attendance. And you can see there the attendance rates across all of the demographics and categories. And as well on the next page, you see, the comparisons from these past few months, as well as these past few school years. And as you can see right there, for 25-26 in April, we were kind of at that same level of percentage last year, which is like 0.02% off, but it was pretty much at that 94.50% level. In regards to talent, Ms. Calhoun, 4th grade teacher, has extended her leave of absence for the remainder of the school year. So Ms. Zapata, who's been the TAT since January, will continue to be the TAT in Ms. Zapata's room for the remainder of the school year. Mr. Jadova has returned from paternity leave after spending quality time with his little one, and he returned on April 23rd. I want to just give a big shout out to Ms. Crockett for her time here. Although a short time, she did a wonderful job, including stability in the classroom during Mr. Jadova's leave, so we thank her. Music drama position, as many of you know, our wonderful music drama teacher, Ms. Thompson, is retiring at the end of the school year. So we are actively looking to fill that position, and we are including her and her partner in crime, Ms. Moritz, in the process to ensure, that continuity of the wonderful work that Ms. Thompson has done over her years here at Peirce. For the fourth grade sped position, it has been very difficult to find someone, especially for such a small window. A lot of people are looking for long-term. So as of now, the hiring window is closed for the school year. So that's a position, although it's like a short leave for Mr. Rivera, he'll be back at the beginning of next school year. We're unable to fill that position for the remainder of the year because the district has put a hiring freeze for the remainder of the school year. We could only hire now for SY 26-27. For Spanish PYP position, Ms. Gonzalez, our cadre sub, continues to fill out that position while we actively look for a quality Spanish teacher. Ms. Ortiz has been supporting us in the interview process. We want to make sure we pick someone quality. We want to make sure that someone that is going to ensure, that is an inclusive environment, someone that, has a balance all across from classroom management to proficiency in Spanish. So Ms. Bakulis, a wonderful PYP AP, has been assisting Ms. Gonzalez in ensuring that with Skyline lessons to ensure, that because as a cadre sub, legally they cannot lesson plan or grade. So Ms. Bakulis has been gracious enough to assist her with that. I'm sure some of you saw in the recent progress report a slash for the PYP Spanish grades. So that was the guidance we received from the district to put that, but at the end of the quarter, there will be a grade now that there's been some consistency established with that. Professional learning, we just recently attended our final principal AP meeting this past Friday for their school year, and I attended one of my final new principal institutes on April 14th. And in terms of reach, Ms. Bakulis is done, and I'm done tomorrow. I have one more observation to go. We had to pick up the slack from when Mr. Lee left, so you're welcome, Danielle. Wasn't gonna do that to you on your first week. And that's my principal report, but now I wanna shift us to our WP. And you have this packet as part of your folders. And Ms. Bakulis is actually gonna join me in helping me presenting.
Do I need to sign in for full purposes?
I was like, genuinely asking.
Get up here.
I'm just trying to follow protocol.
Yeah. Oh,
You're not a participant.
okay, my apologies. No, I meant to link it. Yes, I was so focused on getting copies. So we're going to present briefly on where we're at. I want to say that this was a long process. Creating a CIWP is no easy task. It takes months of work. It takes months of data dives, really reflecting on feedback from all stakeholders. It takes a village. It's not just a one-person job. So I want to acknowledge every member of the CIWP that was a part of the process for the time and the effort that they gave, because it was a very, very long process from January on. And we even had to add a couple of meetings, because we wanted to make sure that this was the best thing for the school moving forward.
I promise I.
So acknowledging all of our wonderful, and even Mr. Lee's on there, even though he left, but he was also part of the process to get us going and everything. And even in her 8 days here, you saw her feedback as well. So we had many voices in this process as well. So obviously we're familiar with this. This was shared previously, the foundations. Again, we had to select 2 priorities. So by default, we have to pick effective instruction as one of our priorities in our CIWP. And based on the feedback, and when we're rating all of the data and all of these priorities, connectedness and well-being was the 2 areas that stood out as the areas that we were going to select for our next CIWP. District recommends that, you really zero in on 2 priorities, doing more, it's a more grueling task. Like, if we really want to do a CIWP right, we got to really focus on 2 priority areas. And these are just, again, examples of the data that was reviewed, from effective instruction to connectedness and well-being in our process as we went to deciding, what were areas that we need to address as a school. Are there problems of practice? But I also want to remind everyone, it's student-centered. It's all about the students. What were the student-centered problems that were identified? It says that with effective instructions, all students accelerate toward grade level proficiency and connectedness and well-being, the student experience piece, safe and supportive learning environments by receiving targeted resources and supports.
So I just want to call out though, people, back to this last one, Mr. Avila called out the data that's in those 2 priorities, but we did a deep dive in all 5 of the priority areas in order to select the 2 that we ended up selecting. So we have to do a deep dive of each one of those pieces of evidence in order to make sure that we're making the correct and right decision for the students.
And the district did give us a window as to when to complete, and we were giving those updates obviously to our PPLC as well. And shout out to them as well, to the PPLC. They were very instrumental, like, at the end, like, we included one of the members, Ms. Harvey, into it. So it was really a cohesive effort. So my shout out to Ms. Fabianski and Ms. Hope as well. Like, that was wonderful to have your voices included in this process as well. But yes, it is a very extensive process. So we've gone through these cycles, and this is the part that we're in. And obviously now we know what the TBD is. The budgets were released yesterday. So all budgets and CIWPs are due June 9th. My goal is to have that done before June 9th. So today we're presenting the CIWP so we can gather feedback from you, the LSC, and gather feedback from parents on Friday, which will be recorded for parents as well. We're going to send a form out too to receive feedback from parent stakeholders. We will be presenting to our staff in our Flex Day meeting after school on Monday as well. As well. So that gives us some time to also go through that feedback and also allow for us to make any adjustments or recommendations as see fit moving forward before asking the LSC to approve the CIWP. So student-centered problem is our careers articulation. Is this the beginning of the deck, Jessica?
Yeah, this goes into like what is a student-centered problem.
No, but I think there was another part.
And it wasn't.
Yeah, hold on.
So this is what we presented earlier in the year, like what is like the different pieces of the CWP, what is a student-centered problem, what is a root cause? We went through all of that earlier. So he's shifting to the 512.
Right. So, there you go. Because these are things that were already presented previously, so we'll be here a longer time to do that again. So we all know what the CIWP is. It's going to be a 3-year strategic plan in the process of achieving goals by using data and strategy in repeated cycles. All right, we know what the CIWP team and how we selected effective instruction and connectedness and well-being. So priority 1, we made some shifts to try to make it a little bit more user-friendly for all stakeholders to comprehend. So our theory of action for effective instruction, after doing a data deep dive and identifying student-centered problems, the focus is if we ensure that all grade levels, pre-K to 8th grade, engage in consistent collaborative planning that prioritizes explicit academic language instruction and shifts the focus from the what is being taught to how to access the discipline, then we are going to see teachers consistently modeling reading and problem-solving strategies across all content areas in lesson and unit plans that include intentional, linguistically scaffolded protocols, as well as vertical and horizontally consistency in instructional delivery and academic vocabulary across grade level bands, which leads to an increase in reading and math for all students, the closing of achievement gap for English learners and students who possess academic language and critical thinking skills necessary to succeed in complex grade level coursework. I want to mention with the English learners, one of the reasons that we put that in the theory of action was when we did the data dive, we noticed that they were the group that was targeted. So two formats were the ISB, we received the ISB targeted designation, we were targeted school, and multilingual learners were identified as that group that were really needing additional supports. But also when we did the deep dive of our STAR 360, we also noticed that in reading and mathematics, English learners made the smallest gains throughout the SY 23-24 school year. Having said that, we're still also trying to close achievement camps in other categories as well, including our Black students as well. We want to make sure that as a carryover from our previous CIWP, we want to make sure that we're instituting Black student success and ensuring that we continue giving them the supports. Not only, so in a CIWP, we have to pick priority groups. You can pick overall, like the entire school, but we also want to be purposeful and targeted in who we're really targeting to ensure that we're scaffolding the supports and being intentional to give those supports that they need. So you'll see here the metrics that were selected, and these are metrics that are district approved. Increase of attaining at or above district measures on STAR 360 for both reading and mathematics. So you'll see here these numbers right now. I want to say these are MOI numbers. We don't have the EOI numbers now because we're currently in a current testing window right now. So the baseline could change, but the student groups that were selected, you can only select up to 2 student groups. Those will remain the same. So our goal, as you see, this is the baseline improvement percentage, is to make gains year by year from SY 27 until SY 29. So practice goal 1. So this is just like a screenshot of the platform, but don't worry, who made a user-friendly one right here. We summarized it. Thank you, Danielle. So the focus for the practice goal, and I want to emphasize practice goal. This is like the teacher component part. This is what the teachers are going to be engaging to in like the practices part. Ensuring that every student has the language tools to solve and explain complex math. So the focus for SY27, a focus on our youngest learners. Since we're transitioning into a new math curriculum, we want to transition it on a year by year phasing in. So our focus will be on our youngest learners first, with K-5 transitioning with a new math curriculum. Teachers will use a collaborative planning protocol to find specific words and language patterns that students need to explain their mathematical thinking. And we want to also ensure that students feel confident using their voice. That's something that we, want to make sure that they're confident and it's okay to make mistakes, kind of like the concept of productive struggle. Like, this is a space where you can make mistakes. This is a space where if you get the wrong answer, you're not going to be criticized or say, oh, you got the wrong answer. Like, no, we want to ensure that we're building a safe space for them to be able to engage in that safe discourse. In SY28, we will expand to middle school. So after teachers take what they've learned from K-5 and move to middle, and we're going to move to middle school, we're going to focus on breaking down complex sentences and math rules so they are easier for students to understand. We want our middle schools to see themselves as mathematicians, so they can justify their answers using high-level academic language. Again, we want to make sure that we prepare them to be lifelong citizens and critical thinkers, and really tying in that adage, as us as an IB school, ensuring that we are preparing them to be real problem solvers in the future. And in SY29, focusing on that school-wide mastery. So teachers model a problem-solving process so students can copy these habits in every subject, not math. So the base is math, but the goal is to spread it through all the content areas. Problem-solving is not just found in mathematics. It can be found in every content area as well. So building on that through mathematics will lead to the extension through school-wide mastery of the problem-solving process. For practice goal 2, again, this is just a screenshot from the paid platform. So the focus here is making sure instruction is consistent and adjusts to students' needs in real time. So SY 27, consistent ways of teaching. Teachers will start using a common instructional strategy that models a thinking process so that students experience a consistent way of learning to help them solve problems. Moving into adjusting in the moment. The teachers are gonna focus into mid-last check-ins to see if students are understanding content in real time. And if groups of students are confused, the teacher will pivot during the lesson to fix misconceptions. So instead of like, having them go through that productive flow, being intentional about those check-ins, making sure, do they grasp the concept? What do I as a teacher have to do to shift back and make sure that, they are clearly understanding the concepts? And from to SY 29, teachers learning together. So this is one of my adage as a teacher, you learn from each other. I always called it like, oh, I like that idea that you're using it. I'm gonna use it and adapt it to my classroom. Teachers visit each other's classrooms to watch strategies in action to ensure best practices are shared across the whole building. We can invest thousands of dollars in professional development, and get the best of the best. But we also have to trust the experts here in the school building as well, the teachers. The teachers all come from different backgrounds, and we also wanna build in your expertise into making sure that we learn from one another. Again, that concept of distributed leadership, of ensuring that we learn from one another and build each other up. Finally, to close off priority 1, these are our milestones for priority 1. So you'll see they're divided into 3 columns. So SY 27 includes math curriculum, ensuring that the professional development is provided for the new math series that we are adopting. Ensuring the academic language, that's where that EL lens comes in, and our ELPT, Mr. Learner, integrating that explicit language instruction into content for ELs. As ELPT, he has to provide also a series of professional developments throughout the school year, ensuring that teachers are equipped with these different explicit strategies to ensure that those language supports are being implemented into the instruction. And finally, the engagement piece, teachers using collaborative planning to enhance student involvement. We shift to SY 28, where our focus will be on the 6th to 8th grade teachers, reaching full implementation of the new math curriculum, ensuring grade level access. Milestone 2, focusing again on that academic language. The shift will be now to linguistic scaffolding as a permanent core feature moving forward. And 3, engagement, to the continued focus on collaborative planning for deeper engagement, which leads us then to SY 29. Sustained K-8 implementation of rigorous content for all. As I was mentioning too, and when discussing the adoption of a new math curriculum, having that vision of vertical alignment from kindergarten to 8th grade. We want to make sure that that is being carried and honored, again, through professional development. And then milestone 2, the academic language, instruction adjusting in real time to ensure discourse mastery. Again, building student capacity so that they feel comfortable to be able to engage in real-time problem solving. And finally, the engagement piece, instructional growth driven by student work evidence. So we want to see if what we have implemented, we see it through the student work. Taking a deep dive and seeing, what trends do we see? And again, this is another way in format to also learn from one another.
Priority 2, we did a deep dive into a lot of what our students need social emotionally. So really thinking about like the social emotional piece of our students and what they need to remain regulated, to remain ready to be learners. So our priority 2 theory of action is if we provide targeted professional learning on social emotional needs, de-escalation strategies, and restorative practices, and establish school-wide expectations, then we will see teachers using a shared language of consistent restorative practices to support student needs, which leads to a more orderly and predictable school environment, decrease in student emotional dysregulation, and an increase in students' sense of safety and well-being and belonging. What we did for our goals, for our performance goals for this one, we really were looking at increasing percent of students' satisfaction of supportive teaching on Cultivate survey. So think about how the students are supported within the classroom, The Cultivate survey is a survey that's given to our 5th through 8th graders, and it's given twice a year, fall and EOI. So this is currently the numbers that you see are based on our fall Cultivate information. So at the fall Cultivate, our baseline was a 70. We'll increase it by a 5 to 7% increase year over year, so 74, 78, 83. These numbers, again, can shift based on our EOI Cultivate, that we have not received the results yet. For the second goal is an increase in restorative responses to misconducts. Now, I want to lay out there, we're not asking for more misconducts. We're wanting to see more increase in the restorative practices in response to misconducts. So you'll see that students with disabilities are called out because that was where we were seeing a lot of students, a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Spiking.
Like a spiker, like a higher number of students having more consequences, punitive consequences with students with disabilities.
And this is just to jump in, this is like if they're like repeated offenders, like, you know, that there was a pattern, like, you know, where restorative practices were attempted on several occasions, but it just kept escalating.
So we wanted to see an increase in restorative practices, not an increase in behaviors. So I just want to make that very clear that that's why you see an increase in there and not a decrease.
The student with disabilities, are we labeling these the ones that are under 504 and IEPs, or is it a different group altogether?
That's your students with disabilities, or they don't call them DLs. It's not labeled as the diverse learners anymore. It's students with disabilities. They shifted the language a couple years ago. So we want to make sure that it's called out that it's IEPs and 504s. And then our African American and Black students, again, there was a little bit of there was a higher level of students that had more punitive actions. We want to make sure we're seeing more restorative practices used with our African and Black students. Our practice goal 1, friendly language. Number 1 is building strong relationships and trust, making sure that every student has a meaningful connection with adults in the building. I want to kind of talk a little bit about like what we're doing in here. It's not just about like giving like a quick fix. We really want to do a deep dive. So we are thinking about, we're implementing some book studies throughout the next couple of years, being semester by semester. I brought a couple if you want to see them, and we'll talk about them in a little bit. But we want to, for SY27, each staff member will spend 2 minutes a day for 10 days having a personal conversation with students to build a foundation of trust. This is based on some of the work that's done in these with responsive classroom. So we're going to make sure that everything that we're implementing, everything we are proposing is research-based, not theory. So it's research. It's actually action research, and it's based on a responsive classroom work. SY28, nobody is invisible. Staff will identify target students who may not have many strong connections here in the building. Teachers will perform weekly check-ins with students about their hobbies, family, interests outside of school, so we're having a personal connection with them, so the students feel seen, heard, loved, cared for. We want to ensure that every single student has at least one adult that they can turn to. Positive school vibes, SY29. We'll work on the 4-to-1 ratio for every 1 correction. They will give 4 practice pieces of praise, and this is to help create a classroom environment that feels encouraging and supportive, all based on the work that we're going to be working on in our practices. Practice goal 2, focusing and growing together for our SEL, using restorative practices and student voices to create a positive school community. Learning new ways to connect. So we're going to undergo 2 book studies with a trust on building trust. Staff will pick 2 strategies within the book studies to implement in the classroom every day. SY28. So I'm going to just pause there for a second. For SY27. We are proposing using 2 books. First one is the Art 6. It's about the adolescent mind, really understanding like the development of the adolescent mind between the ages of 5 and 14, I think is what this goes through for first semester. For second semester, it's the power of our words. That's how we interact with people, how we interact with students, how we speak to them, how they remember how we speak to them. There's some really, you see it's all tagged up because it's my book, but it really goes into some deep, like reflective pieces, as well as like thinking about like how we interact with students on a daily basis and how they interact with each other. So how we interact with students and how it impacts how they interact with each other and in the classroom for learning. So these are 2 books that we are proposing to be utilized throughout the year. SY28, repairing harm. Teachers will use a reflection tool to have restorative conversations as a response to disruptions in the classroom. The goal is to keep students in the classroom and focused on their instruction whenever possible. And FY 29, students as partners, teachers and students will work together to choose project themes, create classroom expectations, and pick topics based on student interest to help ensure that the classroom reflects the real identities and voices of the community. That's that last piece, but we're going to our milestones and action steps next. For FY 20, I'm gonna go straight across with one, because for me, it gets confusing, like my brain doesn't work this way, it works this way. So for SEL Foundations, we're gonna engage in targeted PD for social emotional needs for all students. FY 28, SEL Foundations is demonstrating expansion of the SEL supports and implementation throughout the building. And in SY 2019, they're demonstrating full mastery of the SEL supports and out for all students in building wide. Behavioral supports, engaging in de-escalation and PD and identifying triggers. Staff are engaging in unified implementation of behavioral environments and expectations. And then teachers demonstrating sustained mastery of these building expectations. Restorative practices, establishing support and beginning implementation of restorative practices. Establishing building-wide culture of shared restorative practices and that mindset. And then teams reaching, again, full implementation of restorative practices building-wide. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel every year. What we're trying to do is foundation, implementation, sustainability. One of the other things that is part of our milestones and action steps, and I brought this one for you, again, from Responsive Classrooms to support our newer teachers is to really do a newer teacher PLC to support their needs in the classroom and classroom management and dysregulation of students in the younger grades and in their newer classrooms. So in our pre-K is the yardstick book doesn't really fall into the pre-K level, so our pre-K team is wanting to do conscious discipline because it fits the needs that they need in the pre-K building. Well, if everybody wants to see them, I will leave them out. You can play with them. Yeah, please. Just make sure I get them back because they're mine. So, anything else?
No, thank you, Jessica. And that is it.
Thank you. Any questions from?
No.
Yep.
So is this draft, this is supposed to go to parents, right?
Correct.
I feel that, in priority one, then we see like there's I don't think I think there's a lot of words out there that might not be conveyed clearly to a lot of parents. So that's just one note.
So simplifying the language a little bit.
Yes, because I think a lot of parents want to know like what they're actually getting.
Gotcha.
Because just from someone like myself who looks at data sets all day, like you can start to gloss over and not everybody's really versed in that. They're just really concerned about your kids' education and where it's going. Also have a question about the practice goal number 1 for SY 27 for K through 5. So for my note here is for the 5th graders for SY 26.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be going, basically they'll miss that first implementation in SY 27, and then they won't get any support until basically year 28.
Wait, I'm sorry, can you repeat?
So if you're focusing on implementation for SY 27, if I'm a 5th grader in year 26 and I go to 6th grade, there's a gap there. How will those kids be supported?
Our 6th grade teachers have been going, or 6th and 7th grade teachers have been going through the compacted math curriculum implementation already.
Okay.
It's not called out in there, but they have been taking professional learning and really going to opportunities for enhancing the curriculum that they already have, that they're adopted already. We do not have a new curriculum for 6th through 8 this year because of funding, but so we're going to continue with the compacted math curriculum, which is part of that single acceleration piece that Mr. Avila was speaking to earlier. And that's where it is covered through them. They are getting professional learning. It's just not called out here because it was about the adoption of the new curriculum for K to 5. That's where that That's my
it's like the
27.
new learning piece, but K 6 through 8 is still gonna be receiving professional development. It's kind of like ending the cycle for compact and math, like the transition from compact and math, and then in SY 28, they'd be cycling into the new curriculum.
Okay, that's
We can
fair.
call out- We can probably call
It will
out
need to,
milestones.
I suggest that you call that out because you will
Okay.
probably get questions about that, yeah.
And I appreciate that, that's a valid point.
And one more thing, on your data deep dive for, I think it's priority 1, when you're choosing, your foundations for SY 27 and 29, what controls were you using there for, or data guides that you were comparing against?
Like for priority number 1?
Yes, for your common priority, effective instruction and connectedness and well-being. When you landed on those 2 priorities there, how, the why and how, like, what was your control points for the data that you were parsing?
So as we were mentioning, as we did through the deep dives, we had to also identify priority groups in the process. So like, for example, like English learners was one group that we identified as we're seeing a trend and pattern here that they are not growing in STAR 360. And also through the ISB targeted designation, they were identified as also a subgroup that was not growing through the IRA results. So based on the data trends that we were seeing, that was one of the priority groups that was selected because they were not making those gains. Because again, the focus is the student-centered problem, right? What are the areas of concern where we're not seeing growth with certain priority groups? That's why they have that built into CIWPs. Is there a priority group that you want to focus on as a school? Like, or also like, to reverse that too, like maybe it could be a school-wide thing, like some schools, for some schools, they pick overall. Like they might identify in their data deep dives that, oh, we're seeing no growth whatsoever throughout a school. So as we were going through that, we had to identify priority groups, and even in our second priority as well, or targeted groups like students with disabilities, for example, we were noticing a trend and pattern there too. Like even though restorative practices were being implemented, there was still, some cases where there were punitive consequences that were being administered, thus leading us to pick them as a priority group as well, because we want to see an increase of restorative practices with that subgroup. Jessica, I don't know if you want to add.
You want me to go back to that slide where it talks about the different data?
Sure.
It's the way to get it, so I'll use the statement of that. Yeah, a couple more. Just go back to
Oh, I know.
this one.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at like the different priority groups, we had to pull assessment data, so which is IAR, STAR 360, we pulled assessment data for all students. For grades, we looked at grades overall, like how many A's, B's, C's, D's, like an student on track. We looked at rigor walk data, which came from our network. Rigor walks that have been occurring over the last couple of years, specifically looking at trends on discourse and formative assessment. High quality curriculum, we identified that we have, because we are an IB school, we had to look at the high quality curriculum based on the attestations that are provided to us from the district. For the balanced assessment piece, we were looking at classroom assessments, interim assessments, the use of assessments across the building, and the assessment vote or the assessment plan that we have throughout the building. 5 essentials is 5 essentials, which you have a copy of what we did. So we had to look at 5 essentials, looking at specifically effective instruction. Cultivate, looking at the different areas of cultivate and how it impacts the classroom with effective instruction. And looking at IEP indicators. How are our students with IEPs growing in comparison to our students without IEPs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we looked at all these pieces of data for each one of the 5 priority groups. And in discussion and really deep dive and deep discussion throughout all of this, and even with our student voice committee, there was a lot of elevated with classroom or connectedness and well-being, where we looked at attendance, behavior, we don't do dropout rates, that's high school. We looked at 5 essentials, cultivate our OST programs and our BHT information, which is our discipline, our behavioral health, all those things. So we looked at all those different components. These took hours and weeks. We did probably not even a full priority the first time we did it. We didn't get through effective instructions. We took us probably about 2 weeks, 2 meetings, 2 3-hour plus meetings to get through effective instruction, to go through all the data, have the discussion. It took us probably a good 1 or 2 meetings for each of the other priorities. Effective instruction is the heaviest because of the testing data and looking at the different aspects of how to look at the test. District data, district measures versus state measures. Also like year-over-year growth, school, like grade level band trends, like where a grade band will trend year over year. So we looked at a lot of data to lay on this. It was a lot of data.
And again, I want to reiterate that it was based on the student experience as well. Because at the end of the day, it's based on that student-centered problem. You want to make sure that we're honoring them, and serving those students, and ensuring that they're giving the supports that they need to be successful.
Thank you. Just got one comment. So I think we've already said it, but as I read through all of this, it's written by educators who live and breathe that world. And yeah, I can understand everything that's going on, but I don't feel it as I read through it, it felt like reading a textbook, and that it was very vanilla. But the presentation up here made everything make sense to me in a way that, I look at this, I say, we're going through a textbook, we're going to pick this, we're going to go through a program, we're going to do that, and then when it explained it, it became real. And I think because we've got the video, we've got this recorded, I think if we could go through and rewatch that before sending it out to parents and try to summarize it in the way that both of you explained it. So when you explained it, it made sense. And I think that's the voice that's gonna help everyone understand it much more so than reading this.
So just to reiterate, this Friday, we're having an additional copy with the principal, which will be recorded. So we can go back and simplify the language. That will be recorded. That's gonna be sent out to the parents, that recording. Like, obviously anyone can look at the LSC meeting.
Yeah.
But, and I appreciate your feedback, and we'll want your feedback as well, just to help us, make sure that, this is something comprehensible for all stakeholders.
Yeah, it just, when you described it, then it made sense.
Right. And that's, again, that will also be, we can water down the language, and we can make sure that we describe it just as we did here today.
At the same time, can I just say one thing? Like, when we put this information as public, because the document will become public facing.
Yeah.
We don't want to put a public facing document out there that just says, we're going to improve our math skills. We want to give like a really true and robust, response to what we're doing, how we're doing it, why it's impactful. So that's why it does seem a little more like, it does seem very high jargony. It seems very high, like teachery. It's like that's a word, teachery. But we don't want it to be,
right.
Like, we're going to improve our math skills by doing a book study. Like, we don't want it to be that cut and dry. We want it to actually be meaningful and impactful and really have an impact on our long-term success, not just an immediate, like, quick fix.
I really like that you all made the SEL practice goals measurable. I think that's going to be really helpful and effective. And my only thought is with the nobody is invisible target students, it could be helpful to clarify the frequency with which they will be selected, and just to let folks know, this, it's not just going to happen in September, right?
No, for sure.
Target students.
Yeah, so those school year targets, I assume, there's gonna be some regular CIWP updates, whether it's middle of the year, end of the year, we could have that in there. That's, I think will be helpful.
And I want to mention, as we've said many times, the CIWP is a living document. So every year, for the upcoming LSC, at the end of the year, you're going to have to vote on the implementation plan for SY28.
Or even the goals, right? Like, to the extent you exceed them or you're reaching them.
Right, because let's say if we're meeting the goals, then there could be areas that we can, met our goals a little earlier than anticipated, what can we do to make it more robust now that we're ahead of the game? Or vice versa, are we making limited progress? What can we do to ensure that we reach our end of cycle goal by the time we reach the end of the CIWP cycle?
One thing that was helpful in the prior cycle is, so we've identified the groups that we're going to focus on. It will be nice to have the baseline for the other groups that are not here being tracked to understand. Because what we saw was that while when those student groups of focus, when the scores were starting to improve, we wanted to make sure that the others were not negatively impacted. But the hypothesis was that if those groups were improving, everybody else was gonna improve. So it would be nice to kind of keep that in mind as well when we're looking at the progress, to make sure that it's not affecting other groups negatively.
So what you're seeing, I agree with you 1000%. What you're seeing is what we have to put on the district. So
Understood.
what I'm hearing is you'd like to see is as we're presenting it.
When you do the updates, that's
to have
correct.
comparisons.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Because,
That's good to understand.
this
Yes,
that's
thank you.
gonna fall off, be like, well,
Yeah.
focus on
agree.
these.
And we had those conversations
Yeah.
internally as well, like, because we had the same conversation about like, how do we know
Yeah.
we're not, so how do we know we're impacting for positivity, like we're not widening a gap anymore?
Right,
We had those conversations
And they-
about how we can have that, how we internally, we can still measure other things, but we have to measure based on what they give us as
Yeah.
options to measure.
Correct.
So what we chose specifically came from the district, there's like a list of things you can choose for connectedness and well-being for measuring growth. There's a list of things you can choose for effective instruction, and you have to choose from within those in order to have the performance goals.
Understood.
So internally, we can do whatever, we can do other things to make
Right.
sure that we're hitting our
and
targets.
especially if we're giving CIWP updates throughout,
Mm-hmm.
the cycle as well. And like, I think that is valid, like, we can provide those updates, like, how are other student groups, even though they're not part of the CIWP, like, how are they faring too in the progress?
Also,
Because again, it's
yeah.
all about students, not just, yes, it's limited to 2 groups for a CIWP, but again, it's about all students, reaching all students.
I appreciate the fact that the target goals are 5 to 10% increase on an annual basis, because this is people we're dealing with,
Yeah.
right? It's not widgets. So this,
Yeah, we wanted to make sure they were measurable and achievable goals.
I had a question, and feel free to punt this because you just got your budget yesterday,
Mhm.
but how are you starting to think about how these goals will impact the budget? Or what you're gonna ask for, what kinds of, do you guys have an idea what kinds of resources you're gonna request that will help make this work happen?
Well, the good news is, a lot of that was already approved in the last LSC meeting. So I think maybe the resources for the teachers, but like the professional development piece too, that will be something we'll have to factor in with the new teachers, because for mathematics, like, there is a series of professional developments that could be offered, not just 1 year, but you could extend it through a 3-year cycle. So you could purchase, like, let's say, a cluster of 5 professional developments, but it doesn't, you don't have to like stick to that 1 year. You can do it through the 5 years, or the 3 years, I'm sorry. So it's how we wanna do it. What I'm gonna propose, like, in one of the budget transfers today is like, I wanna like request for funds for the week 0 professional development to start that off before, using the new budget to fund the professional development for the entirety of the CIWP cycle, because we could pay for it in one cycle. We don't have to pay for it on a year-by-year basis, as well as the professional text that we're proposing and everything. I think that's the other piece to this, like, the resources that we're gonna be getting for mathematics, adopting more curriculum than transitioning into 6th to 8th grade. Like I said, initial purchases of math curriculum are the most expensive piece to any purchase. So once, like, for example, K to 5, the cost will be considerably much lower because we've already adopted, like, the manipulatives, for example, are a big cost, but teachers will already have access to those already. So we don't have to take that into account for next year's purchases. So we, like, the digital print, the consumables, that would be what the focus would be. And so those are the budget. I've already thought about it, down the line, getting creative, like, having revenue streams and everything to ensure that we have the resources in place, while at the same time being able to fund all other resources that we need, not just in mathematics, but all across the school from, SEL curriculum to reading resources, for the classroom teachers, and as well as supplies as well.
I have one comment.
Mhm.
On the priority, the effective instruction,
Yes.
where the two priority groups are English learners and as you have African Americans.
Mhm.
Now, what I want to ask, and you read it and you said the African Americans, you said Black Americans too. So when we're doing this study, are we saying that Black students put them together when you perform all this,
Yes.
the effective Black students go with the African American students, or is it just
That's
what
how
one?
when you tag it, it only tags as African American on the platform.
Okay.
On the dashboard where we get a lot of our data, it tags it as Black.
Mhm.
So it's just the way it's tagged at the platform, so it's one group.
Okay.
That's just because we don't have control over how they.
Yeah. Which I
like-
know they're updating the dashboard platform next year, so we're hoping that
Dashboard is
there's.
different, and then this is
Yeah.
a totally different separate platform.
So I don't know if the
that they buy.
language is gonna be, but yeah, like to what Jessica's saying, like that's how it's tagged on the
Okay.
dashboard when you pull the data. But then when you have the CIWP platform, which is an entirely different platform, that is how and this is not just this platform cycle, but in years past, that's how they've identified
That's
the
how they
different
coded
categories,
it when
yeah.
they bought the system, that's how they coded it, they didn't code it with Black students, they coded it with African American.
Yes.
So that is not an us.
Yeah.
It's not anything that you're.
So we can't like manipulate it or anything, it's like a drop
drop
down
down.
of like, please select the priority group. Any other thoughts?
I was just wondering if there was an update on, two things that we talked about in previous meetings. One is the recess coach training, third party company or entity that comes in and does work with the lunch and recess coaches.
Was that the playwork?
Yes,
We had that training back in February, that was
Yeah.
1 day training.
that was one day. And then what was the next steps for that?
So,
I was thinking about what CC said.
the funding, yes, because that's something, I've gone to FOP with that too,
Okay.
because that has been, in looking at this year's, obviously the budget I just received, but also just the funding that we have.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be fiscally responsible, considering all the budgetary commitments that we need to make, not just, from an SEL lens, but also from an academic lens. So I've reached out to FOP and putting that, as a priority
And
that I
what
would like to
about,
fill.
is there an update on Toddle and see if it's in the budget transfer?
Yes, Ms. Levovitz mentioned she shared the private policy, what you had requested in the previous meeting with the LSC, but she had sent that out to LSC members. I don't know if you've received that.
I'll see if I can find it. I didn't see it.
She said that after the meeting, she was going to send the governance and privacy safeguards.
So is my understanding that we're gonna vote on a budget transfer for Toddle at
Yes.
today's meeting?
So I can explain a little more with the
Okay.
Toddle, so the Toddle will be, this doesn't include student data or any of that. This would be just for staff usage. So like they were explaining with the units, it's a way, to order, especially since we're an IB school.
Mhm.
Actually, Danielle, not to put you in the spot here, I know you know a little bit about Toddle, if you wanna give a little bit more of a synopsis of that.
Yeah, so it's really just kind of like a bank of professional resources that teachers can access, specifically for IB. So there are ways to incorporate, intentional lessons and resources on how you can incorporate, attributes, that are also culturally responsive. So for instance, one of those things is, they have monthly or even weekly, based on the number that I've seen, of culturally diverse people who exhibit various IB or attributes, and it talks about how does this person cultivate that in their life, and there's different prompts for students to reflect and discuss in their classroom. So it's really just kind of like a bank of resources for staff, teachers to use, and how they can really exemplify all things IB in across curriculum.
And also it banks also their units because, they were saying this is our current one, we use Google Drive and it's like a lot of clicking and trying, and we're such a big school. So that's another plus with the title. Again, it's more of a resource for the teachers. Again, there wouldn't be like any involvement of students.
Yeah, it's not like a Google Classroom where students are logging in and accessing.
I know title has it,
Yes.
but that's in addition, like that's an additional cost, but
Teacher facing.
yes, it's only teacher facing.
Okay, one more, but I wanted to make sure. Nobody else
Go for it.
I couldn't find typically you give us the behavior, data disaggregated.
Yeah, I mentioned I forgot to put it's linked on there. If I can recall, there really wasn't any, since the last LSC meeting, there weren't as many infractions between April 8th to now. But it's linked on there.
The behavior.
I think I was so focused on the CIWP that I was like, I need to make sure I have everything for that. But it is linked on there, should you have any follow-up questions about it.
I have one question on the CWP. I know we do a lot of measuring on how the students are performing. Obviously, we're investing into curriculums to improve math and what's this? And I know you touched a little bit about the teachers' involvement and the teachers joining different classes and kind of observing each other. What or how much data are we looking into how teachers are performing? And what I mean by that, for example, I don't know, if we have 4 grades and 3 of them are performing extremely well and 1 is not. How do we address that?
So one of the things that we're considering and measuring how teachers are performing is like even utilizing a tool that we already use within the district, the instructional empowerment tool. So that measures 3 pillars of instruction, especially, you know, the student-centered piece, like how are students like engaging in discourse, for example. So that's one thing that, you know, we want to measure, you know, because we're already using that as a tool at the network level. Like, you know, we have our rigor walks, for example. I've shared that in previous meetings. We could use that also as a tool. That's a tool that the district has funded and provided to schools as a way to measure that progress. Again, not evaluative, but more about how can we, you know, measure the growth over time. So like, let's say, for example, we wanted to focus on a measurement of student discourse, right? You know, students who engage in discourse. If any of you remember the language, I don't remember.
Engage in academic
Academic discourse.
Yeah, engaging in academic discourse, like for as an example, you can measure that. Like we can do informal visits, like admin can do informal visits. Like we can measure that, and we can. But what we also want to be intentional is not just admin being the ones doing projects, but also having peers, like colleagues going into each other. Again, getting that knowledge from one another, but also like, you know, giving that collaborative feedback to them as well, or collective feedback, you know, to ensure like, you know, that it's something that, you know, let's build upon. Like maybe you want to try this. This is what I saw, kind of a thing. So like, you know, glows and grows, right, as they call it. Like, you know, what was glowing about this visit, but what's an area of growth too.
Ready for budget?
Very good.
Thank you for this, and I'd like to thank the CIWP team. I know there were many meetings, and I participated in the previous cycle. There was a lot of back and forth and a lot of very interesting conversations that allow parents to understand what gets done internally and before coming out with those, you know, those few pages of paper. There's a lot that goes into that. So thank you for putting that together. So we'll look forward to your summary and then, you know, additional comments or conversations with the parent groups.
And I just want to also thank you all for your feedback too, because again, that feedback is helpful and constructive for us to ensure that we're honoring, you know, the voice of, you know, all stakeholders, that, you know, that this is something that's going to be beneficial long-term for the long-term success for Peirce.
All right. Thank you again. We're going to move to budget.
Yes. All right. So, as always, you have the internal accounting reconciliation report in your packets, and and as well as the internal balance sheets. As you will see on the last 2 pages of my principal's reports, you see a long list of budget transfers. I want to explain that a little bit. So when we're purchasing any type of resources, there are budget lines designated for each product. Let's say, for example, you're investing in a digital subscription. You can't use the same account like you would use for instructional materials, because that's like, there's digital and there's non-digital. So Sally and Lynn had a lot of patience with me the last few days, where we needed to make sure that the money that was already allocated for mathematics was moved into the correct lines to proceed with the money that was already approved for the purchases. So that's why you see in the first, I'm gonna say, let me just see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The first 11, those are monies, that was the money that was already transferred over and that was already in 124 funds. So we added the 51,000 along with other funds that were already in the 124 lines. So it was just a matter of us moving it into the right lines to be able to fulfill those purchases. So you'll see there to do the POs for Great Minds invoice. So each of them have a specific category, whether it's a digital line, instructional materials, those are the first 11 lines that you see right there. The next one you'll see is to create POs for Newsella, Learning AZ, and Renaissance. So you do have those invoices. I believe the Renaissance one I shared in the last LSC meeting. So the Renaissance one is for the testing platform. So that's the re-up, because our teachers did vote on the assessment plan, and it was unanimous that we were gonna proceed with STAR 360 from K to 8th grade. So as I mentioned, we have to pay for the platform, but also as an extension to that, we have Renaissance Freckle ELA. So that's one of the, what's being requested too. It's a great resource, especially for intervention strategies. The News ELA, you'll find that here. The beautiful thing about this, it's like culturally relevant text across all content areas. So they have a wide variety of, they offer science and social science too, text, but that's an additional cost. But one of the hacks that we discovered through talking to the representative was that the Newsella one, just the ELA one, it has already science and social studies embedded into it already. So you're saving the money already. And we already have enough teachers who have used it like independently that they've already offered to do professional development for the teachers in-house, because they've already have experience using it. So we don't have to invest in additional money. They did offer like, we can, for an extra 1,000, you can do professional development. So my focus is, because this is a resource that the majority of teachers really do want, so they can embed in their ELA instruction as well as their science and social science instruction. We also see in the next line, the Brain Pop ELL. So that line is actually the targeted, the money that we received from the grant from 367 from being designated as a targeted school. The focus area was ELs. So when we're investing the money, it has to be based on the target group. So ELs is the focus. So one of the stipulations that it said in the grant, you can utilize it to do a 3-year subscription. So we're actually covering the cost, not for just 1 year here, for 3 years of the subscription, which will save us a lot of money long-term. So again, being fiscally responsible in that way, and also providing a resource that all the teachers want already, not just for the EL students, but also for all students as well. I also have in here Tuttle. Again, we've already spoken how it's going to be teacher-facing. This is one of the resources, and to make it something comprehensible for teachers to use. And the next one, you see the math PD support. So that's that PD that I was mentioning about getting that for week 0 for the incoming math curriculum, with the focus being that we would invest money in the next budget cycle for the full series of PD workshops. So again, those PD workshops could span a span of 3 years. So that $15,000 investment would be for a span of 3 years, but that would be something that I would present to the next LSC. I do also want to propose in the last line of the first page is upgrading our school website as well. One of the things that I've received from the feedback from a lot of stakeholders is, making sure the website is user-friendly and also accessible to teachers as well. One website that I've used in the past has been Educational Networks. In my previous school, we adopted that, and, there's a lot of benefits to it. Teachers personalize their page and have like a personalized page there where parents and students can get resources there, firsthand, even send, mail messages to teachers through that portal as well. But also, if you look at the cost, which is $44,890, I've included the SMS messaging feature as well. One of the things that I received feedback to from several parents is, let's say, for example, like we had that incident back in January where the alarm went off, right? And we sent that message via email. Not everyone checks their email. So, a lot of parents like, is there any way the school could invest in SMS text messaging? So I thought, well, why don't we do 2 for 1, right? Look at upgrading our website, which would be, I think will be something valuable, as well as having that option for parents as well. So I'm proposing, that to be added, transferring funds from our internal accounts to be able to fund that, as well as the PD. And then finally, in the last 2 lines, that's also to cover the different, the final cost for Toddle as well, like it's an additional $710. And the last one, Ms. Lovitz approached me regarding a volunteer lunch that we do on a yearly basis. I believe it was approved last year. I'm not sure if it was, I don't know the full context, but they just showed me what funds were used last year as a way to say a thank you to our parent volunteers throughout the year, like having, get that approved to provide that for them as well.
That is great minds.
That's the vendor name for Eureka.
So those 11 line items match, I think,
The quotes.
the quotes that you sent for services, manipulative and digital.
Right.
And then there's another $15,000 for print that I'm not seeing here on the.
Because, like I said, it's not gonna be, because in some of the lines that were already existed in the 124 funds, may have already had the funds there. It's not gonna match. So it's us moving it, because when the 124 funds, and this was done by the AIC before I got here, that's how it was divvied up for mathematics, for the reading lines. So whatever money was not used, we just had to distribute it to those lines, the amount that was missing. So that's what you see here in those 11 line items. We're shifting those, because we had to shift them from different lines to make sure it added up to the amount.
And the $710, sorry, it's really petty, but where is that? I mean, total is total of 8,500.
Wait a minute, you're right, I just saw that.
So I'm not sure what the difference is, especially if they're giving us a discount, which is what's showing here. Again, nominal amount, but if we could.
I think that might have been a typo on Lynn's part, actually, now that I look at it, because you're right, at 8,500 was the amount for total, so I can check with that one, because that might not be then the item that we need to, so we can hold off on that one.
I certainly appreciate the mathematics that went into allocating all of this to match this thing.
It was a number, John.
I matched it, so I was pretty happy that it matched, but, just wasn't sure. Okay, all right, so you wanna do the honors?
Sure. And we'll read all the numbers.
We got 1 through 16 on the first page.
Sorry if I missed it, so grade minds, are we covering 1 through
1 through 11.
Lines 1 through 11,
No, grades.
Oh, K through 5.
K through 5.
Still K through 5?
No. So we were, again,
So what is this grade 1 through 9 premium assessment?
because that's the platform. It's grades 1 through 9 in general, the platform. There's no,
Oh, I see.
that's how it is. They don't.
You can't choose.
You can't choose. That's the way. I can give you an example for Newsella, for example.
Mhm.
one of the things that was asked was like, can we do it for individual classrooms? And the answer was no. If you're gonna do it, it has to be for the entire school. So like, let's say it was like a core of teachers like in middle school who wanted it, right? But that wasn't the case. There was a school-wide desire to have Newsela. So that's why I told teachers, like, listen, you want this? Get feedback from staff,
Mhm.
and if they want it, then I will push for it and see if we can get the funds transferred to be able to fund it. Because, so that's what you're seeing right there. That's how they offer it. Okay. So I'm proposing, I don't know how to make this easy.
Just you reference this,
Yeah,
we're not gonna read all the numbers.
Yeah,
Just
so-
reference. Yeah, that's what we did last time.
Yeah. So 39 per line number, for the amount of $3,905. Again, this is for cover cost for math curriculum.
Can I suggest a simplified version of this?
Sure.
So items 1 through 11 for a total of 28,000.
Okay.
Hold on, let me read it out. Exact amount, $25,832.
Yes, in total, yes. So $25,832, is that 10 cents?
Mm-hmm.
So $25,832.10 for cost for the covered math curriculum.
First 11.
Correct, to move them into the correct lines, to be able to cover the cost of math curriculum.
Second. Not repeating this. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Next.
So the next line item, in the amount of $15,650 to purchase 3-year subscription for school-wide access to BrainPop ELL using Disney 367 funds.
I second. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
Next line item, in the total of $8,500 to create a PO for Towel.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
Did we skip the brain pop?
We did.
I gotta
We
go
can get
back.
back to
No,
that.
we did the BrainPop. The 15,000?
No, the one about it.
Oh.
Newsela
Oh,
learning.
thank you. When you said BrainPop, I'm sorry.
So you're saying that for Newsela we get
So-
did this, but then learning is.
Let me explain a little bit with that one. The $27,703.75, those are all under the line of a digital subscription.
Sure.
So we already had funds already in there. It's just moving the funds again into that digital line because they were allocated into the digital line.
You probably don't have it here, but it'd be nice. Do you know what the breakout is for learning AZ? Because almost $8,000 of that 27 is Newsela, but the rest of it, learning AZ and Renaissance.
$8,774 for Freckle ELA.
That's Renaissance?
That's Renaissance. I believe
And then
it
the rest of
was 2,000, here, I can pull it up really quick.
No, it's gotta be more than that. Sorry about that.
No.
So I just wanna make sure.
No, I agree.
792.
My apologies on that too. I should've-
2,774, so that's 16,695, so about 11,000 left.
Next year, they're gonna have
Can send me the quotes, so for the platforms, for the testing platforms, it's $2,535.75. And then just let me double check the other one. For the Freckle ELA, $8,474. And then Newsela would be the other cost, which is $7,920.
Yeah.
And then Learning A to Z, I don't think Sally put that one in there. And that's another platform that the teachers utilize school-wide as well. with a lot of different resources, differentiated resource for students. And that one was $8,774. Now,
I need more.
I think what Lynn ended up doing was she subtracted the amount because it wasn't, there was only a part that was needed. It was, again, there was already money in some of the digital
This
lines.
is remaining
It's the
allocations.
remaining piece that needed to be moved. So we moved it from different 124 funds. Again, it has to match or they will not approve the purchase. They will reject it.
It's fine, it works. 27,703.75, there you go.
They had a lot of
Perfect.
patience with me today.
Correct. So there's $7,900 specifically for Newsela, and then in addition to that, there are three other buckets.
Right,
2,500, 8,500, 8,800.
but there were already funds already in the
Understood.
124.
Understood, that's what sums up to the 27.
So basically, the $27,703.75, that's the request to be able to fund those digital subscriptions for Newsela Learning A to Z in both the Freckle ELA Renaissance platform as well as the STAR assessment platform.
That's the motion, and I'll second.
Okay.
I'm not repeating, all in favor? Thank you, all right,
That's
great.
line 12.
So the next one, this is in part for the mathematics PD support service. So this is part, would be for the week 0 professional development offering for the upcoming SY 26-27 school year, to have a professional development, a whole one-day professional development in an amount of $3,900.
I'll second. All discussion, all in favor?
I'd like that we're able to prepare for next year.
The nice thing too is like, especially before, that was my goal, like I wanna make sure that we have everything in place even before the budget came out.
Okay, got two more.
In the amount of $4,890, I'm requesting that amount, to create a PO for upgrading our school website to educational network.
I noticed that the website said it was going to include unbranded mobile application. I think that's gonna be helpful, for parents. And again, out of that 4,800, 1,500 is an annual fee that will probably need to be reinstated on an annual basis.
So it might look different.
It could be lower.
It could be lower, it's based on student enrollment too, like, it's $1.20 per student.
119 per student. That's fine.
Or, yeah.
It's a funny way to price it.
3,700. Okay, I will second the motion.
And one question, what's the implementation timeline? Is this like by next school year, this will be live?
It's pretty quick.
Yeah, here, start
It's-
date begins upon the completion of the standard interim website of photo shoot date.
Mm.
If either of these are delayed, then it begins at the date of design approval.
So as soon as I get the approval, put the PO in and the process begins immediately.
But the date that it's going live, that's the,
They will let me, but it should not take that long.
Okay. All right, all in favor? You, next item, last item.
So, yeah, we're gonna skip the 710 because I don't know why Lynn put that, maybe it was a typo or for something else, but I can verify with her. And then to request $1,346 for the parent community involvement lunch for the end of the year.
I'll second. All in favor? Thank you. All right. Thank you very much for this. I know I had allocated 5 minutes, but this is going a little bit
20.
over.
Just wait till the budget.
another 5 minutes. I'll from looking through just as.
No, just curious, item on the, what is it called, the internal accounts reconciliation report, page 5 of 6. What is that $50,000 withdrawal? Just curious.
Yeah, that's the whole amount, I believe, for Great Minds.
Yeah.
When you sum those up, it goes up to the 50,000, but then they have to reallocate it between all those line items.
Because that was what was requested in the last LSC meeting.
Okay.
So it's like that was not seen before. So
Okay.
now that the transfer's gone through, and in the other item, the one that's 420, that's e-pay. So
Okay.
anything that's gone through e-pay goes to internal accounts and then it's into the appropriate budget line.
Okay, and, so that will set us, after these approvals, do we know what's the ending number after
So
we approve all of this? Just curious where we land.
I believe, let me see. The ones that were requested, I just want to verify, because we used a lot of the student fees. I believe we were gonna be at like, building lease income. I think for building lease income, and that's still to be updated because we just received more checks from the before and after school vendors. Right now, it was at 23,000 here, but I think it's gonna go up to like 43,000 after those checks, and we still are gonna receive another check from the Y.
Okay.
For the end of the school year. And student fees, that should be going down because a lot of it was allocated, I believe it was 13,230. But with the amount, so it's gonna be about, let's see, about 8,000 less from, so give or take about $4,000 or $5,000 in student fees.
Okay.
But again, that number will go up again. So I didn't wanna like deplete student fees, just have a reserve, but we're still gonna have money from the building income lease still as a reserve for any budgetary needs that we might need for the future.
So we can carry over into the new school year?
Correct. And that was my aim, like, again, making sure we fund as much as we can before tapping into the new budget and still having funding left over for, again, fiscal responsibility.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for all of this. This is very helpful. Next item, community group reports. FOP sent out a couple of requests, as you saw, for fundraisers. I think we're square there. REP sent a letter that I forwarded to everyone. That's gonna be included in the folder as well. If REP representatives would like to say a word, now would be the time.
I can summarize very quickly that our last meeting was on April 28th at 5:30 here at the school. Mr. Avila presented on the updates for the CIWP, so there's a conversation around that. We expressed representation concerns and making sure that community voices continue to be included, that Black voices continue to be included, and the continuous updates on the CIWP. We are working on accelerating and getting more donations for our mutual aid and family support funds that we've been running through a full year. One of the things that we noticed around the holiday time was that families were really lacking in funds for groceries and just daily items that were causing financial hardship on their families. And so our goal is to continue raising funds so that before the end of the school year, we're able to supply the school with at least $50 grocery store gift cards for families who might need them to, start off in the summer. And that's something that we put together based on, continuous leads from families' financial situations shifting because of ICE presence in Chicago over the last year. And also these new SNAP benefits that are changing and are causing financial hardships on families. Not to mention the rising costs of everything lately. So that's our second goal. We continue to talk about school communications and making communications easily accessible to folks. We have various levels of communications, including email and s'mores, parent groups on socials, and we just are so excited to be able to move forward with maybe an SMS option that everybody will be able to access. We continue to work with our Panther Pathways group, monitoring current situation in Chicago for families, current concerns that they may have, and just being on top of that, making sure that our our families and our communities feel seen and feel cared for. We continue working with the school on restorative practices and hoping to have, continuous conversations on that in the coming months with parents and caregivers. We're so excited to hear the student voice perspective at every LSC meeting. It's just a really amazing way to connect with students at the school, to make sure that the things that are happening at the school are happening in conjunction with them and not necessarily only happening to them. And then the last bit was we had a very community-centered May Day gathering. So for families who were here on May Day, we invited them to join us in the playground after school for some community art projects, for talking the ground with things and messages that are important to them. And so that was a really great community building effort that happened on May 1st. Our next meeting is on Tuesday, May 22nd, or 26th, sorry, and it will be on Zoom.
Thank you very much. PSO?
We have a meeting Friday morning in the field house right after drop off at 8:45. We wrapped several different events. Obviously that works in conjunction with arts team here at the school. And then obviously teacher and staff appreciation just wrapped last week. And we partnered with several local businesses, which is awesome. We had coffee donated from Starbucks, had a steep discount from Understudy, which is always awesome. And then a family who owns family. How many? Right, Heritage Thing. Heritage donated a bunch of donuts for us for Teacher Appreciation Week. So yeah, all these businesses came in and helped us out to give love to our teachers and staff. And then upcoming, we have, we're helping out the sports team here at the school for the sports banquet, and which is in 2 weeks. And then coming up starting today pretty much is teacher and staff giving, which you all voted on, thank you very much. And those are 2 big things that we're wrapping up. We will be discussing on Friday the week before school starts. We always do or assist the school in the back to school fest. So if anybody wants to come and collaborate on that, we would love input for that.
Thank you. Peirce Pride caregivers didn't get a report per se, but I think that there's been already an announcement on the upcoming Panther Pride Parade. So I'd like to just sort of amplify that message. Peirce families for diverse learners and students with disabilities did not hear back, but I do know that they do talk, they do meet. PPLC?
We'll discuss CIWP.
Very good.
I was just gonna say for the Peirce Pride caregivers, the parade's on May 26th. And there's a flyer and I assume it's gonna be.
Yeah, I think they're already doing it today.
Alright.
Those went out last week, I think. Or was it? Or maybe we got them on Friday, so they were going home for us.
Okay. Thank you. I did get a report, I sent it over, I'll again put that in the folder. But I think one of the highlights again, Dia del Niño, were very well received.
Mm-hmm.
Next item, Equity Committee.
We had our meeting Monday in the field house. We set up framework for discussion for forum topics next year, along with alternating meeting times between morning and evening, so teachers can participate. We'll have an officer election after the first LSC meeting due to current or incoming present LSC member has to sit on the equity board, and Nicole is leaving, and there's which will just be leaving, Sonia and I as current active members. I think that covers it for the most part.
Thank you, and then thank you also for sponsoring the recent forum. We got a lot of positive feedback about that, and the food was excellent. I took some home too. Next item, principal evaluation. So as you may recall, we didn't do what we call a formal evaluation to being included in the principal evaluation tool. So in lieu of that, we did send a survey out to the community, teachers, students, and we received about 30 answers. So we try to make sure that we specify that there was not going to be a formal evaluation, but with DPQ, we agreed that it was important to actually at least have something in there talking about performance so far and suggestions for improvement. So we're able to synthesize these results that we will share with Luis, and then so for the incoming LSC, there will be a deadline. I think it's in May of next year to get that completed, perhaps a little bit earlier. But there is going to be communications on how that works, and there will be input time then to have enough runway to run a consolidated or comprehensive evaluation and share that with Luis. Next, budget committee.
So I did reach out to LSC members, wanted to have powwow to two of you, just to discuss the budget that I received yesterday, but I also want to offer too, one-on-one meetings with any LSC member. I'll be sending an email out, who would like to discuss. I'm preparing a slide deck to make it very user-friendly, the handout that I received and everything, because even I had some questions about some of the language on there. Just want to make sure that I'm reading it correctly, and want to make sure that not only to LSC members, but my intention is also to share this with all community stakeholders as well. So yes, you should be receiving information in that in the next coming days. I do have a meeting set up with central office on Monday for new principals to discuss the budget that I received, and they're going to give me their suggestions of what I can do in the budget. Right now, again, it's preliminary. I know there's been a lot of rumblings and grumblings about the budget, but I think we'll be okay. And it's just making informed decisions that are going to be best for the school moving forward.
And as a reminder, we need to submit that back by June 9th. And so this is coming up in terms of what's next. Okay. Thank you. New business. I did put here, I realize that it's very, very impersonal. So Danielle, I apologize. I should have put welcome. It's not lost on me that your last name rhymes with our school name, so we a really warm welcome to Peirce. We appreciate you and the time and the commitment, and we look forward to continue working with you.
I do have a fun quick story about her. She met one of the first graders and they asked her, "Do you own the school?"
I mean, this is when you keep it in your back pocket. Yes, I do. Welcome again.
Thank you.
I put a note here, chess scholars and after-school enrichment solutions. I don't know if you remember this, but I sent an email. I think it's a possible vendor that sent it out. I just wanted to bring that up and kind of get feedback from folks. You saw what this is about, and if folks have any thoughts or.
One thing I was thinking is that could be a potential vendor with OST funds for next year. Obviously, I haven't received OST funds. That's not part of the budget. That's separate. Out of school time.
When did you get that?
That It's more towards end of summer, beginning of the school year.
Have they ever
Yeah.
reached out?
My daughter went to.
The chess scholars and after school?
Is there one already?
They do a chess club like in-house, like, and Mr. Malay is, I believe, the one who,
I thought it was after school, like.
Yeah, for OST.
Right.
for OST. But that was like, because you have choices with OST.
Mhm.
You could do in-house, where it's teachers leading it, or you can also go with a vendor.
Mhm.
So it all depends on the funding that we receive from out of school time. So I know over the years, the funding has dwindled significantly. So again, I haven't received those funds, and I'm probably not gonna receive those until probably closer to the beginning of the next school year.
We don't really have, I mean, maybe I'll acknowledge receipt and say, you know, as discussions
potential vendor, yeah.
progress, we'll reach out. Okay. Very good. Thank you. I put a note here, transition to new LSC, so again, wanna welcome or congratulate our returning members and our new members, to the LSC. There's going to be a transitional meeting, invitation that's gonna come from Luis, and we'll make sure that access to the relevant files and documents and folders and all that is effective.
I think most annoying is to share the Peirce LSC email and password.
Yeah,
So maybe around the organizational meeting, we can
yeah,
let you know,
July, yes.
then I could just meet with whoever is the secretary.
Okay, perfect. And I do want to acknowledge like the current LSC. I want to thank you for your work as well. For any returning members, I look forward to continuing working with you. But also outgoing members, thank you for your service to on the LSC, and also for entrusting me as principal. Again, I always try to do my best, and will continue, to do my best to serve our school community. But I just want to acknowledge what the service that you have done for this school. Like, this is years of service, and I look forward to continue working with you, even if you're not part of the LSC. You can always feel free to reach out, even if it's just.
So this has to be a special meeting then, because
Organizationally,
we have a quorum of people here.
That's right.
I'm also gonna be reaching out to new LSC members too, like even existing LSC members in June, prior to the organizational meeting, just to start up listening tours for them, kind of like what I did already when I transitioned in here as principal.
Very good. Items to be added to the agenda for next meeting. So I think this one is a bit of a moot, although we do have a special meeting that we need to attend to. So I'll skip that one really and jump on the budget you already talked about, CIWP. Thank you for the presentation. So we need to agree on a date between now and, I think we want to be done the week before June 9th, because some of us are not gonna be around. So if folks kind of like take a look at calendars, I know that Wednesdays usually work for folks for the most part, but I wanna be conscious of the upcoming holiday and also enough time for you to kind of figure stuff out, so.
So we've got is the 20th, the 27th, or the 3rd. And the 3rd is the last week of school.
Yeah.
So, it's the 20th or 27th.
And I don't, I'm not espoused to those data, I just mentioned because Wednesdays usually have been feasible, but if folks have other preferences.
Yeah, I would prefer to not do the 20th, but I don't think we're gonna have the budget ready for the 20th.
I don't think so, because there's a couple steps that I'll also need to go through as well. Obviously, we're gonna be, for those who reached out to be part of budget committee, I'm gonna be reaching out when we're gonna meet, but I'm also gonna meet on the 18th with the central office representatives from the budget office. I also have to meet with my network chief to get her approval to see if it's a feasible budget. So, and that's, prior to me presenting. One thing that I was discussing with Matthew was to get it to school-wide, to the entire school community, was recording a budget presentation and sending it out to community stakeholders and to LSC as well prior to that meeting, just to help out, inform all community stakeholders, school stakeholders, just so that way they're able to see, you know, what's being proposed. So that way when we come and meet, we, you know, it's going to be more about asking clarifying questions.
I think that's a lot to get done by the 27th.
Yeah.
June 3rd.
I think that's what we gotta do is June 3rd.
I would agree, probably June 3rd is probably the wisest approach of anything, even if, because again, like, I believe, like, for the network, I think they're giving us until the 29th, like, they're scheduling meetings up to the 29th.
Okay.
Which obviously it came to the 29th because it's graduation day
All
for
right.
it, so it'll have to be sometime that week that I meet with the network.
Okay, so June 3rd, 5:30, we'll the same room, work for everyone? And it'll be a special meeting, but we don't need to go into closed session.
No.
All right, so we'll schedule that. Next item, clarification on, you know, we were talking about all the
Right.
costs and all that. I think for 6th to 8th grade, I think we're saying it's not gonna happen this time.
So I do want to clarify, I know one suggestion that was given in the last LSC meeting was reaching out to FOP, which I did meet with FOP about that. You know, I did approach him with that request. One of the concerns they mentioned was, you know, obviously there are a lot of already financial commitments for different programming, but this is like a more of an academic funding thing. Like one of the things, one of the members mentioned, you know, if for any reason, like, you know, the funding went dry or anything, that might lead to a collapse of the math curriculum. So that was one of the things that they were kind of like, you know, that was a concern brought up, you know, like, you know, if the funding dries up, you know, we need to prioritize also the other areas of funding that we're already focusing our art partnerships, all the other commitments that have already been made. So in talking with our middle school teachers, because we did have a meeting over, like we have our Peirce partnership, we actually did go over and talk with, you know, we had a meeting there at Sen with our middle school teachers, and they said they would prefer, because of all the work that was already put into compacted math in the last few years, is transition out of compacted math the upcoming school year and then transition into Eureka and SY28.
Okay. Thank you. And the other one is on title governance, and, you know, I think you
Kimberly,
talked about that.
yeah, Kim mentioned to me, because I asked
Sending,
her,
so we'll say, okay.
she said that after LSC, she was going to send that to LSC members directly. So I'm not sure if any of you received that.
I didn't see it.
Doesn't sound familiar.
I'll follow up.
Because I know that was one thing she mentioned, like, I can look, she had the information.
Okay. Thank you. Next item, public participation. So we have,
Roberto.
go ahead.
So thank you all. I just want to echo Representative Lamont and Chairman Matthews' emphasis on a couple missing elements in the CIWP. Specifically, I want to address the math instructional needs for the middle school students. That was also brought up at the last LSC. And the other achievement gaps for different student demographics, which I had previously raised during the State of Union, I think in November. I think it's important to understand that in certain, based on the data and the deep dive, these two priorities, but I think it's important to make sure the community knows that you're also addressing these achievement gaps for other demographics. I think that is really important. We don't want to leave any student behind. Second, I don't believe you need to dilute the CIWP. I agree that you can create a clear and straightforward language that everyone can comprehend. I think providing a summary page with specific action items would be beneficial. And third, I would like to see, as I'm coming into the LSC as a community representative for 2026, 2027, I would like to see like the Peirce math leadership to present on the math curriculum to address that middle school year gaps. I think that while the Peirce LSC approved transferring funds to purchase the math curriculum for K through 5, I believe, it was still left uncertain on how they were going to address or how the school was going to address the deficiencies for the middle school. And then finally, I just want to thank Representative Lamont for allowing the incoming LSC to elect a chair for the Equity Committee, and to Representative Oliver for including the items that I and other members raised during the last LSC. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, hey guys, Bianca here, parent to a kindergartner, second grader, sixth grader, so just a few comments. One, I'm curious to know more about the subject, the middle subject acceleration program. I have no idea what that is, and I have 3 kids here, so I'd just be curious to know like where that information is, how it's communicated to parents. I'm assuming it's targeted because it seems very specific, but just hearing folks talk about it at a meeting like this, like makes me wonder, like, should I have known about this? Is this something I should have looked into beforehand? Is it something that the school just takes care of on their own? So I'm wondering what the communication is like for that. Is it in the SMORE? Is it like in a teacher newsletter? Can it be posted on a website so that folks can like find it very easily? So that's my comment about that. I'd love to hear more about raised about the guard on the third floor. Like, is that a new person? Did that just start this week or last week? I'd be curious to know what the process was for thinking about who this person was and what they will be doing, and also how that communication gets spread out to the students and to caregivers. And then the third thing was, I've been thinking about all of the new positions that are going to be up for hire at Peirce. And I remember when I first started, there were always calls out to parents and caregivers to volunteer to be on like the interview committees for the thing. And I thought that was a really cool thing that the school did. And I thought it was actually like what you're supposed to do because I didn't know any other way. So I'm just wondering if that's something that the administration would consider, if that's considered best practices, or is it like at the discretion of like each school? Like what does the process for that look like? I know there'd be plenty of folks that'd be like eager to volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lauren Claire, I'm gonna bring up the middle school math curriculum again. I know that you mentioned that you talked to FOP. There was like a missing piece in there on the cost, the reoccurring cost after that initial piece was, and I know that FOP has some hesitation to fund it because of that reoccurring cost. I don't know if there was if you found out how much that reoccurring cost was, because I know the initial cost is the most. I will say FOP represents all parents who donate to FOP, and the people who are on the board are just those 12 people. And as a parent who donates, and as a parent who's at the school, I can tell you that I'd much rather have them give money to a curriculum than much anything else. So I just want to provide that feedback. And I do know that if it meant that they had to fundraise more, that would happen, and that parents would rally to fundraise to make sure that that curriculum would get funded. Just wanted to put that out there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Carla Rosales, just in case I need to notify for public attendance.
Come again?
There's a message, just in case I need to notify for public attendance.
I'm not sure what that is. All right. All right, so next item, announcements, comments. So I didn't prepare a statement, but, you know, and again, it's also, you know, I want to be conscious of people's time. We will have, you know, again, a special meeting, but I wanted to thank all of you for participating in our meetings. We've had, you know, on a regular basis, on an annual basis, we have about 13 to 14 meetings. This past year, we've had 27. So I want to thank all of you for making the time, for coming, for being here. And that's both us here who are elected, but also parents and, you know, I'll call them the usual suspects, but, you know, in general, you know, it's important to get that involvement, because we know there's a lot. I look at it sort of like as an umbrella or an ever expanding one, where we may have one person, but that person has spoken to many others, right? So so echoing people's thoughts, opinions, concerns, joys. It's been really great to be part of this for the past 6 years. Time goes by fast, and so we're excited to see a new LSC in place with, again, some returning members. But your impact has been great, and I've learned a lot from all of you. So thank you for that, and I'll be around.
On a float.
For the last time, I'd like to remind everyone that the annual Lunar Year Parade is next February.
You should just sign up for public participation.
Speaking of that,
Disappointed if every public participation doesn't involve a float.
it needs to have that in there as
Lamont, we expect you to carry it.
from now on. You don't have to remember. I'll call in. But thank you.
Expect it to be in the email. We have one comment in the inbox.
That's
We'll put it as the first SMS text message.
Public participation. But again, thank you all, and we have one more meeting, and with that, checking on norms again, thank you for your participation, and I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.